Well, thank you for coming, Amy. We are in Chinatown, Ujamaya parking lot, and we are going to talk about the recent anti-hate sentiment that has been going on against our brothers and sisters, Asians. As an Asian descent, what do you feel, just personally, and also at large as a community, this hate-related incidents that has been engulfing around this area?
Yeah, I mean, it is a worrisome for our community. I worry for my mom and my dad. My dad works in this Chinatown area, so I worry about him when he comes and goes to work. But I also worry for the grander community, right? This is not new against Asian Americans, but also against people of color and all communities of color. And so it's definitely important that we acknowledge that and that we need to recognize there needs to be community solutions to come together as different communities, whether it's geographically or in background and ethnicity. We need to figure out solutions to figure out how we can stop the violence against our community.
Thank you for mentioning that. As a COVID-19 Community Response Alliance, which is your organization, part of it, we have developed some tools that will help community to fight on their own.
Yeah.
Is there something additional tools that we needed to combat? I mean, is there anything beyond that?
Yeah,
in terms of color people, black immigrants versus Chinese, how do we work and cooperate together on common issue?
Yeah.
Authorities in the Bay Area here in California say they've seen an uptick in recent weeks in violent attacks against Asian Americans. It's adding to the already large number of incidents since the pandemic hit the U.S. almost a year ago. And it's prompting law enforcement to take some new action. And we want to warn you, some of the video we're about to show is quite disturbing. A string of violent attacks against elderly Asian Americans has law enforcement on alert. This surveillance video capturing an alleged assailant in California violently shoving an 84-year-old Thai American man to the ground. He died of his injuries days later. Authorities say it's not currently being prosecuted as a hate crime, and the suspect has pleaded not guilty. A 91-year-old man was pushed over in Oakland's Chinatown. The motivation has not yet been determined.
In a 12-day period, there were 18 incidents of violence committed against Asian individuals, many of whom were seniors.
The spike in violence forcing the Alameda County District Attorney to form a special response unit. Hollywood stars like Daniel Day Kim and Daniel Wu are also speaking out, using their fame to raise awareness and donate funds to organizations that fight hate.
We're here for attention to the situation and address the issue.
We need to do more as Asian Americans to voice our concerns and speak up, and we also cannot allow ourselves to be silenced.
Advocates say these attacks became more prevalent after former President Trump began routinely using racist language to describe the pandemic.
The China virus, or I like the plague from China.
A UN report found there were more than 1,800 racist incidents against Asian Americans from March to May of last year. After taking office, President Biden last month signing an executive order with new Justice Department guidance on how to specifically report anti-Asian hate incidents.
I'm directing federal agencies to combat resurgence of xenophobia, particularly against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders.
What else needs to be done beyond this executive order?
A lot of it stems around education, so that we don't see Asian Americans as foreigners. We don't see them as the other.
Does this get better in your view?
All of us galvanizing together, creating allyship, and just recognizing these issues within our own country is a step forward. We got to keep hopeful.
Now, as you can imagine, these attacks, along with others, and all of the attention on social media now have raised the fear and anxiety levels in Chinatowns across the country. The Alameda County District Attorney tells me the Bay Area will see increased police presence this weekend for that important Lunar New Year celebration.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.
understand what they have and what resources are out there for them to be able to utilize. I think it's important that we, acknowledge there's many communities and many dialects and stuff like that. So language justice is important to help combat this, for folks to understand what resources out there, but also knowing that the broader community is standing with them also is an important piece to it too.
Thank you, Ami. Ujamaa is the biggest market, Asia market, and I see a lot of, colored people and also white. In terms of such incident, do you think it created some kind of backlash to the business?
I think there isn't. I think, in my opinion, folks are still supportive of the community and are able to come down. This is home for a lot of folks, a lot of different communities.
Yeah.
Whether they live here, they shop here, this is going to be, their go-to, because there are places that are in language. Again, that's another key piece, is that folks are able to communicate freely and be able to, rely on folks in this area, in this community, to help them out when they need so.
So in order to facilitate more understanding among, especially between, immigrants and Asians. I know the incident that happened, one of the activists, when he was killed about 2 years, 3 years down the road, still unsolved issue.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of finger pointing to East Africans in that regard. Do you think we should communicate better to understand each other as communities of color?
Yeah, I think we, as communities of color, have a very parallel history. I think it's important to acknowledge, all the violence against communities of color happen at different points in our history, and that's what connects us. And because, the systematic and the institutions that we're part of, contribute to that. And so how do we, as a community, come together and address those? And so it's definitely important to acknowledge the parallels that our history and our communities face, whether it is violence, whether it is inequities, whether it is, access to healthcare, access to a living wage, and all those important important things for folks to be able to live in this community.
I know the fight for social justice is a long way,
Yeah.
but we should be able to work together in order to find a lasting solution. We've been defined in many ways by others. Now
Yeah.
we are trying to define who we are and trying to establish our destiny in the future. What is the lesson that has been learned from past experience to look for the future? What should we do as immigrant and also as a second, probably third generation yourself? How do we, especially, my hope is all the young ones like you,
Yeah.
with open heart and mind, will have a better future. So how do we translate that in more
Yeah.
practical way?
Absolutely. I think it's about coalition building. I think it's about understanding that, the history that we all face is not new, and it is something that we all, as different communities of color, have a shared experience, whether the agent or whether the incident or time period is different. We have a shared experience with that, and that we build off of that, and we build that the knowledge that the social justice that we're fighting is for the future, right? It's not immediate response we might see, but we know what we're fighting for the long term, and to recreate a new society coming out of this pandemic. How do we take advantage of this moment to build something that we can be proud of, and that we can, really set the standard for the future to come, whether it is having a living wage, whether it's having access to health, quality and affordable healthcare in a pandemic. We can use those coalitions and the time that we have to build community groups that are broader and that are aligned to fight for social justice.
I know APALA has been conducting a lot of seminars and educational for communities of color. And I hope such will transcend some of the suspicion that we have among us, because colonizers are always dividing us in many ways with the grant and with other small issue, and make us fight So the educational and webinar is really very interesting, especially the last two that I have been able to participate.
Yeah.
What is the future? Are you guys going to continue to do so?
Yeah.
And I want to see more to extend to especially Eastern Africans to be included in this. And I thought it is a very, very important tool because if you don't know your past history, you cannot predict what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this pandemic has allowed us to create a lot of space for our members and be able to create a program that allows us to educate folks about history that isn't taught in a normal setting, right? A lot of history that's taught that we might have learned in more of a higher education is not taught in regular the school curriculum that's already happening. So, we're hoping to continue more educational webinars, and we are expert of our knowledge, but we would definitely love to partner with other community groups who are experts at their community and uplift that and continue the educational, because it's history that needs to be learned in order to be learned from. And so we are hoping to continue to host more and partner with other community groups to continue this webinar, whether it's virtual or in person.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank
it was
you.
a very insightful information that you have provided us.
Of course.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming for the interview. Can you tell what is your name and why you are here?
My name's Joe Bonilla. I'm from Texas. I'm visiting.
Okay, how do you like Seattle? How do you like Seattle?
Oh, Seattle's great.
Is it very hospitable?
For the most part, we could say yes.
It should be better than
it can be better.
I hope you will have
they need to clean up the homelessness.
Yeah.
There's a lot of homeless. They need to be taken care of.
Absolutely.
Cleaned up, And
yeah. So the reason we are here is I know you are like me as a community of color, and there is a lot of race-related issue in Seattle, especially against Asians. How do you feel about this?
Well, it's not right. Somebody needs to do something about that. And myself, I never encountered or seen any of that, but I've heard it happens.
So what do we do as a communities of color?
Yes,
should we stand all together? And
we should
fight
stand
racism?
all together and be all one.
Yeah.
There's racial. It doesn't really go
This
around
is not it's against our value, right?
Yes.
So we should be judged not by our color, but by our deeds.
Right.
Do you agree, sir?
I agree.
Thank you so much.
When I say Asians, y'all say with attitude. Asian! With attitude! Asian! With attitude! Asian! With attitude! Asian! With attitude!
The tipping point was when Grandpa Vicha, the old time man in San Francisco, was pushed and died. Imagine if it was your dad, your grandma, your grandpa.
When grandmas get attacked!
I don't imagine. That is my dad. Grandpa Vicha is my grandpa.
Asians with attitude is exactly what it says. Asians who have attitude. We're pretty unapologetic. We are who we are.
Asians with attitude, we out here now, baby. And when people ask me why I do this, I'm gonna say like this, because I give a fuck. When I first patrolled, they ran away from me. It hurts me so much because they didn't know who I was. This lady ran for her life, and it hurts my heart because I'm trying to protect you.
Jimmy Boone Pensy, nicknamed JB, is a truck driver from San Jose, California.
Another dude got beat up on the damn train, got choked out. Nobody did shit. I don't care what race it was, nobody did shit.
In early 2021, JB began patrolling the streets of Oakland's Chinatown every day after work.
Something has to be done. I couldn't just sit back and not do anything about it.
He puts in around 30 hours a week and named his patrol after a social movement called Asians with Attitudes, AWA for short.
I've been doing this since February 4th by myself, and I got the whole team with me. Like, we're really on the street walking, so we try to spread the word to come join us because the people need you,
Since then, the group has expanded to about 20 people.
Hey, be safe out there, bro.
For sure.
Since the start of the pandemic, attacks against Asian Americans have been on the rise. And San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose have been hotspots for attacks where Asians make up the largest minority group. Oakland alone recorded at least 20 incidents across 2 weeks in February of 2021. Feeling they've been left to fend for themselves, several community-based vigilante patrol groups have formed. But AWA is the only group who patrols into the evening.
What I do is I walk around and make sure all the stores are closed safe. I won't leave until every single store is closed. We offer rides. We walk them to the bus stop or escort.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Everybody in my crew has a 9-to-5. It's all volunteer.
I've been out here since 2 o'clock. We're really out here, man, you know what I'm saying? So, can't stop, won't stop, you feel me?
Here's the flyer. Here's the information. I try to be the lubricant between the community and AWA because a lot of them are Laotian and Cambodian and they don't speak Chinese. But as soon as I talk to these shop owners or whoever and I'm like, oh, they're here to help, immediately their eyes light up. Like, oh my God, really? That's great.
A lot of times, tragedy is what brings people together. Through JB's actions, AWA just became a movement. The sparks was already there, he just exploded it. We're having a big rally on Saturday.
It's good, like Asians have to voice out.
Yeah.
I think that is very important, especially Chinese.
Yeah.
They really like scared.
We're stronger together, you know?
The Asian community is going through a lot of suffering. No one's shopping in the community. Everybody's scared to come out. Everybody want to close the shop early. The police is not doing enough. It's all over the news, top story, and why they're not around.
Before starting the patrol, JB didn't know anything about social media or activism, but now sees an opportunity to expand the scope of AWA, using it to bring greater awareness to issues facing Asian Americans, while also bridging divides within the community itself.
I wasn't really like book smart. I'm new to everything. I mean, every single thing. I'm just a regular guy working 12 hours a day. I never thought I would have to step up and become this person I am today. I wish I could go back to town to read more, to be more educated, so I would know about a lot of history of how things run and like political stuff, so I could have a better understanding of how the world works, how it functions. I bring this AWA movement, just like the Black Panther, did make a name, and I respect that. To show that we could come strong like this, yeah, why not? Take it to the streets and let our presence be known. Take it to the White House and be known. Our voice has to be known.
I can't just sit back and not do anything.
This is the time.
I believe for the Asian community, Bruce Lee was like, in a sense, our hero growing up, you know? You don't see too many Asian stuff in football teams, basketball teams. Defeat is a state of mind. No one is ever defeated until defeat has been accepted as a reality. Bruce Lee. Doesn't that kind of play in part with everything that's going on? With all these hate crimes? That's why I stand up. That's why I choose to stand up and never sit down. I was born and raised in the east side of San Jose, California. That's the side where it's filled with poverty, crime, violence. I was introduced to the gang life by choice. I got arrested at the age of 17, and I did about 8.5 years incarcerated. I went to prison.
Kevin says he was drawn to the gang life for a feeling of acceptance, a feeling he says was difficult for him to find at school.
Growing up, we didn't see history about us in the books. If you ask me what I knew about Cambodia or our culture, all I knew was the colors of the flag, and I knew that Angelina Jolie loves our country. She really does. She went over there and adopted a few babies. I didn't have Cambodian role models until I went to prison.
While in prison, Kevin studied Asian American history and learned about his own Cambodian roots.
Hello, mommy. How you doing? I just was amazed by how much I didn't know. Knowing my history helped spark the change in me because I started to learn where I came from. I felt so fucking bad. Had I known what my parents had already went through, I probably wouldn't have done the things I've done. As long as I'm Asian, no one will ever give up on this fight against hatred and racism and ignorance. So donuts, man.
Many businesses in Chinatown have welcomed the presence of AWA. Some Chinatown business leaders believe that robberies and break-ins have been reduced, but some community members aren't as sure. Kevin says AWA members have gotten hate mail and death threats.
AWA is a movement, it's not a gang. You know the vibe, Chinese, Vietnamese, Cambodian, Asians with attitude, baby. We were the first ones out there in the field that says enough is enough.
Usually when I wear red tones, it's like when I'm ready to fight. At least with the younger generation, like they're all fired up. We can start teaching them more of our own history, because that's when you start to see the patterns of how systemic racism happens, how narratives are.
The public image of Asian Americans has passed through various stages in US history as politics and the economy have changed. In the mid-1800s, immigrants from Europe and Asia were perceived as a serious economic threat to white Americans, especially in California. Asians were portrayed as inferior and threatening. By the 1960s, though, the myth of the model minority began to take hold. Asians started to be glorified as industrious, law-abiding, and obliging, which permeates still today. But the model minority myth allowed society to ignore the struggles and barriers many Asians face.
喂，爹哋點啊？你今日有冇休息啊？定喺鋪頭啊？
係休息，今日禮拜五，之後有咩事？
哦係啊，我猛咁諗住今日禮拜六、禮拜日。
哎呀，都唔掛住爹哋嘅。
掛住，而家咪 call 你咯。你喺鋪頭啊？忙唔忙啊
？My dad's been attacked, my uncle's been attacked, like I've been verbally assaulted. It's been happening for a long time. Ask anybody, any immigrant from New York, anybody from San Francisco.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
I've seen so many times firsthand how America treats us different because of just the way we are. My dad is so strong. He came here with nothing and had to work so hard to be able to take care of his family. And to see somebody treat him like he's nothing, it's like, I know how America treats our people. Because I think we're always brushed aside. It's like we're constantly gaslit. Like, your issue isn't as bad. They throw the model minority shit, and I'm just like, what model minority? Have you been to Chinatown? Do you know how much of us are under the federal poverty line?
The model minority myth is also the idea that non-white Americans can be academically and financially successful if they just work harder.
When they say, oh, Asians are the top earners, blah, blah, I'm like, okay, but like, which Asians are you talking about? Like, I don't know any of those Asians.
Experts argue that this myth is also used against Black Americans, dismissing systemic disenfranchisement and racism in favor of personal failings. In effect, if Black Americans only worked as hard as Asians, everything would be fine for them. Growing up in America, Jen says it was Black people who taught her the language of social justice.
These are just the Asian American victims.
From them, she found the answers to her feelings.
First book I read where I was like, oh my God, this speaks to me, was Malcolm X's autobiography. It's like, you know, eye-opener.
Because of your indoctrination and brainwashing, you point the finger of scorn at us and tell the world that we're not ready for freedom.
I could feel the gaslighting, America gaslighting me, but I didn't know the words of how I felt. But Black America is the one who taught us that, right? And they're the ones who taught us to look at ourselves as people, not just to look at myself through white people's eyes. We owe so much to Black folks.
Yo, Jeff, do you have any feelings you want to talk about?
What the fuck? Our parents, especially as immigrants, they come here with the mindset of stability. And that means eating a lot of shit. Our parents make the choices that they have to and do the things that they have to so that we can make the choices that we want and do the things that we want to.
It's kind of like our parents feel like this country, they're guests here, but we feel like this country belongs to us. So that's why we have a seat at the table.
Maybe it's just finally coming to a head because our generation, we're not going to keep quiet.
If you proud to be Asian, make some motherfucking noise. One of the things that we're fighting for is for Asian American studies in K through 12.
It's white supremacy that drives us apart.
Nice.
I don't know, it's just a lot. I'm just really nervous.
Up here from Seattle, man.
Oh, there.
You're inspirational. Hell yeah.
AWA hosted their first rally on April 3rd, drawing a crowd of hundreds, including members from Los Angeles, New York, and Seattle.
AWA, are you guys ready? That's what I'm talking about. Empower! Empower!
Women! As Asians in America, our parents, our women, we've been through hell and back. Fuck that shit. We're not keeping our head down anymore.
That's right!
And I'm Chinese. But we got our Laotian and Cambodians out here. I'm not swole like these guys are, but they make my heart swole. It's AWA, Asians with attitudes, but we Asians with affections too.
G. Let's get it! I know, because music is universal and love is universal. You don't gotta understand what I want to say. You just gotta feel the cadence, feel the flow, feel my vibe, feel my soul. They don't care about us. Oh, my brother, sister, let me see you hands up!
Stand up for injustice 和 stand up for 不公平的待遇，就算有不同的政见和来自不同的派系，别人怎么看你根本不用太过在意。面对困难挑战新的一代，华人在地在地。
Make some motherfucking noise! Make some motherfucking noise!
I'm loud as hell.
Stand up, fight back!
It's us having the audacity to feel like we belong here and to fight, but also keeping in mind all of our cultures and stuff.
I know it's not gonna stop. That's all I can say.
The world's finally get to open their eyes and see what's going on. It's like, why do it take violence or people to die just to open up the world's eye? Why? We always been American. Asian people always been Americans.